Okay, so like I mentioned before, today we're going over Medicare batching, and should be able to see my screen now. I'm just going to take you a couple of things before we start the batching side of things. I just want to show you how to enable Medicare on your computer. So when you log into Zedmed, you should see reception, management, reports, and utilities. Now under utilities, you've got third-party links, and this is the link in Zedmed where it allows you to enable Medicare on your machine. On your machine. So there should be a box here that says Medicare online claim. And this is where you enable Medicare on your machine. So I'm just going to click OK, and I'll go back into it. I've done a couple of batches, and then I'll just take you through billing first. So to bill a, just going to quickly add in a patient here. Okay. So in terms of billing a Medicare patient, whether you're billing them from the waiting room or just attending or billing them straight from by looking up the patients themselves. If I was to attend this patient, I'll put them into the waiting room. Also, when you attend a patient, it's always best to check if their Medicare details are correct, and that's just by going into patient details. So you right click and you go into patient details. Now, patient details, what you'll find at the bottom is online PV, or it stands for online patient verification. So it checks if the patient's details are correct. So you've got the name, date of birth, and address there. And online PV should allow you to pick a doctor and click OK. So this sends through a quick check to Medicare just to check if it's correct or not. Just having problems getting a reply at the moment, but it should come back to say that it's all okay. In terms of putting them into the waiting room, if you're doing it straight from the appointment screen, you can click here to go to waiting room up the top, or you can go back to appointments from this screen. What we're going to do, we're going to go and bill from the waiting room. So right click, and you've got bill here. When you right click, you've got bill up the top, the second level and the first level as well. The three bills just do the same thing. So as long as the patient's highlighted, so click on the bill. Now what we want to make sure with Medicare is always the payer when we're doing a bulk bill. So if Medicare is not there, then we're going to click on add edit payer. And we can add new, and you can select Medicare if it hasn't been selected. I'll just cancel that and I'll close. So I've got from top to bottom, we'll always want to make sure our payer and our doctor are set first. I'm going to bill this one under this particular doctor. You've got your service date. Now bulk bill, you can backdate, I think it can go back 2 years, the service date. If it's over 2 years, it will throw an error when you're trying to batch. Item number, so I'm putting in item 23. This is my value for it. Now, if it's under properties here, this is where you can do not normal aftercare or not duplicate service, for example. So that's under properties. And I'll click OK. Now down the bottom, you'll see when my payer is Medicare, most of those icons are grayed out because you don't need them. What you've got is print, email, and suppress. Basically, if you click on any of these, it'll either print or it allows you to email, but all those three allows you to save the to save the invoice onto the patient's file. So if I go to press, it's now sitting under the patient's file as an outstanding. So if I right click, I'm going to go into the patient's file now, account inquiry. Now I just want to point out something. Now this is the invoice number 51. That's the invoice I just created with my service. And I've got it on today's date. Now, under where it says claim number, once my invoice been batched, like my second invoice here, once an invoice been included in a batch, it'll put that batch number under claim number. So that's the differences between my two invoices. I've got my payer set to Medicare on the left-hand side. One has been batched, which is this one, and the other one hasn't been. So that's how we know if our invoice been batched or not. The other way for it is when we are to batch it, we go into management. This is creating a batch. Batching, create batch. And now we've got our payer as Medicare. So we've got our list of payer here. So you've got Medicare, you've got TVA, and you've got third party as well. Today we're just going to look at Medicare and TVA. Payers Medicare, I've got my branch set to the Brisbane Clinic. Because I billed this patient under the Brisbane Clinic, if I click on all, it'll give me all the invoices, the bulk bill invoices under this branch. Now, in terms of batching these invoices, you'll need to do it on a doctor level. So you make sure you drop down and select the doctor. Now, I've got my date. If you want to check if there's any outstanding invoices that hasn't been batched in the past, just click onto the little calendar and you can basically just take it back and see if there's anything there. It'll show up. Otherwise, it's fine. Now keep in mind where it says claim ID. Now the claim ID is ID that's the software assigned to the batch itself. So I've got 3 invoices here. If I want to batch all 3, I can do so. If I want to exclude one, you can simply just right click on it. Otherwise, we can batch the 3 invoices by going to batch down the bottom here. Now, when I click batch, it'll just ask me to save. Now, what you'll then see now is I've got a D0006, and that's my claim ID for this batch. So you can print it, or you can save it onto your computer. Mine's set to save to PDF. Now, so that's creating a batch. Now I'm going to go to batching again and go to batch inquiry. And if I click all, it'll give me all the batches that I have created for this branch, or I can drop down to each doctor. Now transmitting, you can leave it under all, it's fine. So we know that the first batch, that's the one I've just created. The second batch I have transmitted. Now the first batch below status, you'll find it's blank. That's because I haven't actually actioned it. I haven't transferred it to Medicare. The second batch, there's stamped TRA. It just stands for transmission. That means it's being transmitted successfully to Medicare. You also have your claim number. This is reference to Medicare if you ever need to contact them and query about any of your batches that are sent through to them. You've got the date and the transmission date. Date will be the date you create the batch. Transmission, you can create batches and transmit it the next day, it's fine. The transmission date, if you have to contact Medicare, then we'll ask you when the batch was transmitted, and it'll be stamped under here. Now we also have our total value, our outstanding. Once Medicare pay our batch, it'll come under, the amount will come under deposit, and I'll talk about it shortly. So I'm going to give it a go. It might fail, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. So what you'll see before I take transmit my batch, I just want to take you through the bottom, the options down the bottom. Now, as you can see, some of these are grayed out, and they do come up once I click the box. Then they do come up, and there's a reason for that, and I'll take you through that shortly. So if I'm looking to the reset, basically means if you want to resend something to Medicare. For example, a batch was sent and Medicare, you want to correct it again before you send it again. That's reset. Reset will take these statuses off the batch. Detail adjustments, that gives you the list of invoices for those patients. I've got include, exclude. That allows you to include patients and exclude them. For example, if you've forgotten if you need to make adjustments to any of those invoices, you can do so. You just need to make sure you exclude them from the batch. Transmit. Now, transmit comes up now because I've ticked the box. That's when you're sending this to Medicare. I've got receipts as well. That's once Medicare pays. And payments, MA bulk billing, I'll talk about that shortly. Now, what I'm going to transmit this one first. And I'm just going to click OK. So it just failed because I've got a problem connecting to Medicare on my test machine. Do apologize for that. So basically, once I transmit it, it'll then stamp TRA next to it. Now, once Medicare, it takes about 24 to 48 hours for Medicare to pay. Just bear in mind if there's any public holidays, there's going to be a delay, but they're normally pretty good getting your batches paid and stuff. Now, once Medicare paid, there's a couple of things you need to do to view the report, but I just want to show you the statuses where the batches goes through. Now, you've got transmission. Transmission is just once you've transmitted the batch to Medicare, that's the TRA. Now, the statuses moves, and it doesn't move automatically. So for you to be able to view any payments from Medicare, you need to be able to view if you tick your batch, you should be able to see MA bulk billing comes up. Now, the first two reports are the two reports you need to view. And those reports, once you view them, it brings through the deposit from Medicare. If you don't view it, you can, technically, if you just go print MA, it still brings it through. But we do recommend go and view the first two reports. What are the differences between the first two reports? Now, we've got a preview MA payment report and a preview MA process report. So payment reports show you how much Medicare paid and what batch, and process report will show you who and how much that was paid towards those invoices. So it gives you an individual report. And I'll just quickly show you what that looks like. Let's see, but that's fine. We'll keep moving. It's not coming up. So this is basically what it looks like. So you've got your payment report, which is the first one. So some payment reports you'll see the number of batches. They might just pay 3 or 4 batches in one payment. So it gives you the overall amount, and then you see the list of batches on the left-hand side. For this one in particular, there's only one batch that was paid. Now, top right-hand side, your payment report will give you the payment run date, and this is we would normally take down this date to enter it when we're receiving a batch. The second report, now once you view the first one, then we come and look at MA process report. What will that do? It will tell us who was paid and how much that was paid towards those invoices. So it gives you a breakdown. So it's good to have a copy of these two reports from Medicare. So again, coming back to Zedmed, now as you can see, I've ticked it, and down the bottom here, MA bulk billing, payment report and process report. Remember to view these two for your money to show up in the deposit section. Now, once your money shows up on the deposit section, you should be able to, now what you then see, the status will change. It will then change from TRA, and up the top right-hand side here, it will then move to outstanding deposited MA. It just basically means that the money, that you should see something under deposit, and DEP just stands for deposit. So that's one of the statuses that you see on the left-hand side. Then it'll allow you to receipt. Now, in terms of receipting a batch, now see how I'm setting my, the settings up the top. I've got my branch, and I've got the doctor listed as all. And if I tick this, I can see receipts comes up at the bottom. If I hit receipt, now I just want to show you this, it's just because it's important. Now, if I'm leaving doctor as all, now under receipt, see how the bank list is blank? That's because we're not, we're receiving it under the all doctors. So if your clinic have a default bank account set under branches, it'll go straight to that bank account. But if your clinic have, each doctors have their own bank list, then it's best to drop down to the doctor, hit receipt. What you'll then see is that the doctor's details comes up and the bank list is there. So again, when receipting, make sure that you have it under the doctor, because if you click receipt and it's all, it's not actually assigned to a bank list. So that's one important note to keep an eye on, especially when you're receipting. Just drop down to the doctor and receipt. Okay, say for this patient, for this batch, I've got Medicare paying the whole amount, which is $184.75. I've got, this is where you enter your pay date that you've got from the payment report. So that's when the pay date comes in. Just enter it here. For example, if my batch was paid today, I'll just put in today's date. Any reference number, you can enter it here. Otherwise, I can allocate, and this will receipt all the invoices inside that batch. So if I click OK, do you want to print the receipt? I'm just going to click no on this one. Now, it then disappears from my screen because it's now moved under the paid status. So seeing here, there's a tick now, and that's because it's been receipted. Okay. So if I want to, now that's receipting a batch. If I go in to have a look at one of those, if I go into Angelina, just going to go into the patient now and have a look. Account inquiry. There's nothing here because by default it gives me my payer, but then to the top right hand side it's set to outstanding. So I'm going to click all. So we should be able to now see that a receipt has been assigned to the invoice, and it's this receipt number here. It's got a tick under it. Okay, so that's creating a batch and transmitting it to Medicare. The next one I want to look at is, I'm going to go back into the batch. Now what we've done, we have receipted this batch. But what if you've made a mistake? For example, if you come across an issue with one of the invoices inside your batch. Now, if you are to remove the receipt of this batch, you're unable to do that. So if you want to make any adjustments to this batch, you can do so from this screen. You won't be able to do it anywhere else because we were sending it and putting it together as a batch. Any adjustments you need to come back to the batch inquiry screen to do it. So if I tick this, I should be able to go into payments, and I can see this is my receipt, because this is the receipt number assigned to the batch that I have received earlier, and I can reverse it. So if I go reverse, do you wish to reverse the payment? I can say yes. I made an error, for example, and click OK. Now what will then happen, if we go back to the patient, we can see the invoice is now outstanding and the receipt has been adjusted. Okay? Any adjustments you want to make with a invoice that's been set to Medicare, once a claim number, if a claim number is there, you'll find adjustments down the bottom here in the account inquiry. You'll find the adjustments is grayed out, because any adjustments you need to go into the batch. And that batch, you locate that by using this batch number, the claim number. Okay? Just going to go into batch inquiry again. So if I just click all, now my batch has been put back because I reversed the payment. The next thing I want to show you is how to remove. I want to quickly talk about adjusting invoices. Now, if I have, if Medicare, if Medicare rejects a whole invoice, then it's best to go and exclude that invoice from the batch. To do that, you need to tick just highlight the batch and go into include, exclude. So if it was Angelina, for example, you simply just exclude and batch. So that's how you remove a patient from a batch. So exclude, you can right click on it to exclude, or you can highlight and there's exclude here. So that's to take a patient out, remove a patient from a batch. If Medicare was only paying part of the invoice, for example, if there were two services like these two here, if Medicare was only paying the first one, you need to come and adjust your invoice through here. So we went into detail adjustment, highlight your service, and down the bottom you should be able to void. So you can void, you can increase or discount from this screen. Remember, and I'll keep saying it, if you're making any adjustments to an invoice that has been batched, you need to come and locate the batch inside the batch inquiry. So I'm going to cancel this. And now, one of the questions that we regularly come across is that can we delete a batch? Deleting a batch, yes, you can. As long as it hasn't been transmitted to Medicare. If it has been, just reset. For example, if I go to the Adelaide Clinic, if it has been transmitted, contact Medicare first. Contact Medicare first to make sure that it's been cancelled on their end. And if you want to delete it, we need to be able to take the status, the TRA status, out of our batch. So to do that, you tick the batch and click reset. So reset will just means it's no longer going to be on Medicare's end. We've cancelled our transmission. So that to delete a batch, again, you tick and reset if it already been transmitted. Okay, now I'm going to delete this batch. So to do that, I'm going to go reset. Yes. So as you can see, now the status is gone. Now, I'll then go into the list of patients. Now, as you can see, this screen, it doesn't give you an option to delete. So what I then need to do is empty my batch, and that's how you delete it, basically. So tick, go to include, exclude. I can see these are all the patients included in this batch. So to exclude it, you can click on it and the exclude comes up, or you can simply right click on all of these patients, right click. Now this means if I hit batch, there'll be no patient in my batch, and that's basically that batch will disappear. It no longer exists. So this claim ID up the top here, it's D0004. So I'm going to go batch now. Do you want a copy? I'm going to say no. And I'm going to click close. So now my batch disappears. So that's how you delete a batch. So if I go to all, I won't even see D0004 anywhere. So it's gone. So that's how you delete a batch. I'm going to go on to the doctors again. The next one I want to talk about is just any error messages that we come across when transmitting. Now, because I don't actually have any errors on my end, but I can show you some of the common error messages that we come across on our end. I'll just bring up my PowerPoint. Now, these are some of the messages that we get. So, referral override type code. So that's the first one on the left. That was because it was a duplicate invoice. A patient had the same, basically, same invoice. Just go F5. I got the wrong screen up. There you go. Okay, so I hope you can see that one better. So the top left-hand side, you've got an error message 7051. Now, some of these messages, when you see the number, you can actually just jump straight onto Medicare's website. You can search for error messages there with the numbers. Otherwise, if you're unable to find anything, give us a call and we'll assist you. There's the second one to your right here. It says invalid format for data item. This is a common one you come across. And this is because there could be an illegal character on the patient's name, for example, or even their address. Like it's got something like an extra full stop or a hyphen that shouldn't be there, or a question mark. Sometimes you tend to be first typed and you accidentally put in something there. On the left-hand side, 1705, that means is your PKI is expired, and your PKI is a certificate that allows your Zedmed to connect to software to Medicare. So that means you have to contact them for new renewal. Now, if you're a specialist clinic and you're attaching the next one down, if you're a specialist clinic and you're attaching referrals, sometimes you've got it's rejected because the referral doctor provider number is incorrect. It just means maybe that's changed over the years, especially those referrals the 999 referrals indefinite. There might be a chance where the referral doctor's provider numbers change and you need to contact them to update. Now we also have my last one where you've got the date of service must be no more than 2 years. So I did mention this earlier. When you're doing your bulk bill, it needs to be within 2 years, otherwise Medicare rejects it. And those are some of the error messages that we come across on our end. We're just going to come back to Zedmed. Just a couple of other things to point out in terms of batching. Now we've created a batch. I'm just going to go back and do a invoice again. This time I'm just going to search for patient. Now, in terms of creating an invoice that I took you through in the beginning, one of the things I want to highlight, this is where you can add the payer through this screen, where you can go add Medicare, or you can add the payer through the billing screen, the invoice screen. If Medicare is not here, for example, it's very likely that maybe it was inactive at some point. So you just need to make sure, for example, I'll give you as an example, if Medicare was made inactive, so there's no payer, I can go and add a patient as a payer or Medicare as a payer. If I select it, it'll give me an error message. So in that case, you go to bill, and if I select Medicare here, it won't let me. So what I need to do is at least select a payer. If I go add or edit, it'll bring up any inactive payer any inactive payer under this patient. So that's the only screen where you can actually pick up Medicare again. So if I go select Medicare, and I should be able to double click on it, and you can make it active again for this patient. And I'll just click close, and I should be able to see Medicare there again. So that's the Medicare as the payer. The other thing as well with batching, other than going into batch and create batch inquiry, where you can track any paid and unpaid batches, you can also in Zedmed look up. If I go to data here and account payers, I'm going to type Medicare here as my account payer. Now, when if you go to data and look up Medicare as the account payer, I can see payment allocation on the bottom left-hand side. So I can simply click on payment allocations. Now, this will show me all the invoices, outstanding invoices between this period. So from the 7th of November to today. And you hit go, it'll give you all the invoices. Now, this is how you just want to make sure that that you batch all your invoices. As you can see, the invoices, the last 4 invoices haven't been batched, and it could be maybe someone made a mistake or you've deleted the batch and you forgot to add them back. So you need to make sure that you go and put them in the batch again and send it to Medicare. Now, you can also see I've got my top 4 where I've batched it under this branch. So I've got my first batch, so I'm under the Brisbane branch, and then I've got my last couple of batches in a different branch. So just keep an eye on that. So you've got your branches and you've got your doctors as well. So these are all outstanding Medicare invoices. And I'll just show you how to get there again. So management, debtors, account payers, and all our bulk bills, because Medicare is our payer. So we'll need to look for Medicare on our system. Go into Medicare and go to payment allocation on the left-hand side. Select your date. So sometimes it's good to just take it back just to pick up any old invoices that you've forgotten to batch. And there you go. So you can see I've got more in there that hasn't been paid for, hasn't been paid for by Medicare, or I haven't even batched it. So that's a good way to track any unbatched invoices in your Zedmed. And again, you can receipt invoices through here, but it's best to do it through the batching screen. That way you know that it's been sent to Medicare and they've definitely paid. So that's the payment allocation report. I'm just going to click close here, and I'll just go into, I think I've pretty much covered. I'll just do a quick recap of what we just covered today. Once you bring up a patient, I've got my patient here. Very important, we do an online PV down the bottom. Now, I've only talked about Medicare batching today, but you basically with DVA is the same process. Down the bottom, you've got online PV, or you can do a DVA patient verification. So, online PV, select your doctor and click OK. And now to create an invoice, a bulk bill invoice for this patient. So I go up to the top, click bill, make sure my payer is Medicare. If it's not Medicare, it won't come under the create batch. So make sure your payer is correct. Always make sure, get into the habit of top to bottom, make sure your payer set, your doctor, any referrals attached, make sure it's there, and then enter your item number. You also do the service date here. Remember, you can backdate and leave a today's date. You just, in Zedmed, you won't be able to future date. Enter your item numbers and suppress, and I'll close. Now, I then go to batching, create batches. I can select all and my batch will be there, but we do recommend going into each doctor. So I'll go into the doctor. My claim ID is blank because I haven't actually batched this. So I'm going to click batch. And I can save I'll just save it to my computer. Click close. Now I can see I've got a claim ID of D0007. Close. Go back to batching, batch inquiry. And I'm under the Brisbane clinic. I can drop down and I can see D0007 is there, and I haven't transmitted it. So I've got one patient in there, and I know that because if I want to look into what patients are in my batch, I can go to include, exclude down the bottom. And remember, we can also make adjustments to our invoice. So if I go detail adjustments, I can make adjustments to my invoice through here. So invoice level, see how all these options are grayed out? That's because you need to click on the service first for it to come up. So sometimes we get calls because most people leave it under the invoice level. Any adjustments needs to be done on the service level. So I'll cancel that. And again, if I was to exclude any patients from my batch, I can go include, exclude. Say I want to exclude Max from this batch, I can simply right click. Now, this is really a very important step. You'll see batch down the bottom and you see new batch. Now, we're excluding this patient from this batch, so just make sure you click batch, not new batch. So make sure you batch. And I'll go no, and close. Now, if I go into that batch again, I can see that my patient's gone. Now, another thing I want to bring up as well with include, exclude. Now, see the top left-hand side, you've got exclude unmatched invoices. Now, if I've adjusted my invoice and I want to bring them into the batch again, you can simply, if you just untick that, you can see Max comes up now. So by default, this exclude unmatched invoices is ticked. So if you want to bring back Max or add any of the those invoices back or those patients back, so simply click it. Now see how the first two is grayed out and the last one is white. Now that's because even though it shows up, we still haven't included it into our batch. So what we need to do, make sure your patient's there and then click batch again. So if I go batch, I'm just going to say no. And if I go back into it again, include, exclude, I can see Max back now. And I'll just close that. And now in terms of receipting, remember we talked about receipting earlier, you should be able to see an amount in the deposit column. If there's no amount there, it means, and you have view your two reports down the bottom, and if there's no amount, it's two things, maybe Medicare rejected all your invoices, or Medicare haven't paid, which you need to give them a call and see why they haven't actually paid it. But give them about a day or two before you call them. Remember the deposit column, the amount itself will come through once you view the payment report and the process report. They don't automatically come in once Medicare pays it. And Zedmed, you have to view the reports for those two amounts to come up. And to receipt a batch, if I leave it under a doctors as all, I'll go receipt. Remember, it doesn't actually have a bank list. It doesn't assign a bank list. Unless, if you see a bank list there, it could be just the default one that your clinic has set. But just to be on the safe side, just select doctor and receipt. You should now see your bank list and the doctor details. And cancel. I'm just going to quickly check some of the questions that came in. Oh, it's fine. Okay. So I'm going to go and receipt this one again. So go receipt 184 and I'm going to allocate. And okay. Now this will then move my batch to paid. And now that's to do with receipting batch. We've talked about reversing a payment. Remember, reversing a receipt on a batch. You tick under payments. You should be able to see the list of receipts. You can reverse it from here. So reverse. You sure you want to reverse because you made an error. I'll click OK and close. It'll remove it out of my page and put it back into outstanding. Awesome. Now, I think that's pretty much all I was going to talk to you guys about today. The other thing was under that is you've got account payers, Medicare as a payer, if you want to look into payment allocations, just to have a look through and make sure that any outstanding invoices are all in a batch. If they're not in a batch, you need to put them in a batch and transmit it to Medicare. Okay, now before we finish our sessions today, I just want to quickly take you guys through a couple of things on my end. And this is to do with on our website. If you jump into our website, just going to share my screen again. I've lost you. Sorry about that. I lost you for a moment. I'm back. Now, I just want to take you onto our website. I just want to show you our future Lunch and Learn. On our website, zedmed.com.au, now zedmed.com.au, if you go into it and see a link up the top, support and training, if you hover over that, you've got Lunch and Learn. Now, I want to click onto that because I want to show you something. Now, as we go through our Lunch and Learn sessions and our weekly Lunch and Learn, what you'll see is that you've got all the topics here. We have uploaded the video in case some of your staff wants to watch it later. So you've updated some of these with the videos, and we've got our upcoming Lunch and Learn here as well. So we've got it clips, Introduction to Zedmed Clinical. Below each topic, you've got click here to register. So you need to register for each topic. And as we go through our sessions every week, we will add more topic into it as we go. Now, feel free to send us any feedback about our training today to implementations at zedmed.com.au. The other thing as well, now on our website, we have, we've got a feature request. Now, if I just want to open this link because I want to show you what it does. Now, if you're on our distribution list, you would have received an email about this page that was set up for feedback from our clients, what you'd like to see, and to help us develop our software. We'd love to hear from you. So that's on our website. So if you go into zedmed.com.au, feature requests. Now, if you're not on our distribution list, please give us a call or contact us so we can give you a password. Now, the first time you click on this link, it'll ask you to enter a password, which you'll need to get that off the email sent out, or you can contact us to give it, so we can give you the password. Now, I've just got a question that came in. I'm just going to quickly ask this question. So what happened is Medicare have paid more than what we actually charged the the patient. I'm going to go into one of the batches. If it's this, we're just going to pretend this one is already deposited. If Medicare paid more, for example, if they paid by, say, $1 more, I'll put it through because I haven't updated my fees or something like that. It could be just that you haven't updated your fees. Medicare have increased their price. Now, as an example, going to increase. So Medicare pays $39 towards the item 23. Now, to do that, I need to go into details adjustment. Now, make sure, remember in the beginning, I did say any adjustments, you need to go into the batch inquiry screen. Now, I'll expand the service. Remember, if I click on the invoice level, it's grayed out down the bottom. Expand, I'll click on the service, the Medicare overpaid, so which is $38.20. Now, down the bottom, you can see an increase. So I can increase this by 80 cents, for example, if Medicare pays it over by 80 cents. And then if I can click close, that's to balance up my batch. And the other thing would be, what if Medicare pays less? Now, towards this item number, for example, you can close. If I go back into it, I can then, like same thing, if you want a discount, if Medicare paid less, you can discount your invoice. So if I discount it again by 80 cents, for example, because Medicare paid me 80 cents left, then I can do the same. Now, if I expand this, you'll see the history of your adjustments. And you can see now they're equal. They're now equal. And I'm going to close that. Just one of the questions around how do I remove a service. Oh yes, so how do I remove a service from an invoice? It's simply highlight the service, the item number that you want to remove. I'm going to go out from here, go back in, detail adjustments, expand my invoice, and highlight. I can see void. I can take just one service out if Medicare did not pay it. I can take it out and then create it. If you need to fix it on a different invoice and batch it separately. And I can close this. Now, I've got a couple more minutes left, but I just want to show you, if I am to receipt this batch, for example, I can allocate it. And I want to make any adjustments. So if I go paid, if I want to make any adjustments, now you see down the bottom, I'll go tick, I'll go detail adjustments. Because I've receipted it, I've got a tick here, detail adjustments. When I expand my services, it's already ticked because they've already been fully receipted. To make any adjustments, you need to remove these ticks from here, from the invoice, and to do that, you need to reverse the payment. So to make any adjustments to an invoice, reverse the payment first, and then it will allow you to adjust your invoice. I think that's all I have today. As I mentioned before, on our webpage, we've got, I'll just quickly jump back onto our webpage. On our webpage, you've got support and training. Our lunch and learn quickly filling up, so get in early. And also feature request, where you can give us any feedback. We'd love to hear from you just to make our program better. And looking at our lunch and learns in the future, feel free to send us emails to implementations@zedmed.com.au. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you guys have a good day, and I hope to hear from you guys again. Thank you. Bye.